We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people, and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and water. We will strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. Board action. I know there's a few things that we talked about kind of swapping around on this. You want to make that motion now, Kristen? Or?
So I move to amend the agenda to move item F, overview of the application process for the open board seat, up to item E. And move, sorry. And move to executive session to item F.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion? Makes sense to me. We don't want folks to be waiting until after our executive session to hear an overview of the application process. So we're just gonna put that first and then move the executive session down. All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. All right, Distressed Schools Fund. Mr. Greg Dennis, Director of Safety, Security, and Facilities, will be presenting on this one. Flat new roof for Pinewood. Are you gonna just present on all three?
Yep.
At the same time? Okay.
Yep, is this thing on? Is this thing on? Thing dead?
Just feel like Greg can do it.
Operator error, why don't do karaoke right here? I don't know, it's not working apparently.
Would you like to,
I can speak loud.
yeah, well, because we're audio recording, so we want, folks to be able to hear you. I don't know if you just wanna come up here to one of these mics. I don't know if you care where you stand. I think what's important is you have to do that.
The light goes on and then goes off.
I mean.
Get really close and personal here.
Good evening, school board and Superintendent Robbins. I have a few board actions I bring before you tonight. The first is for the new roof replacement at Pinewood Elementary for the flat roof portion. There's two different types of roof at Pinewood. One is flat membrane roof and one is composition sloped roof. So the first one I bring before you is the flat roof replacement at Pinewood Elementary. The funding source for this project is our first project using our distressed schools, $3.6 million we received this year. So that's exciting. And we have gone out and used Purchasing Cooperative, King County Directors Association, to receive a proposal for this of $210,104.44 before tax. So it's recommended. I bring before you a recommendation to approve requisition number 297247 to KCDA in the amount of $210,104.44.
What do you, if you don't mind, can we just do a motion for each one of them individually?
That's fine.
Before you go on to the next?
Yep.
Okay. Do we have a motion for this one?
I move to approve requisition order number 0000297247 to King County Directors Association in the amount of $210,104.44 before tax.
I'll second.
All right, a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What roofs are flat at Pinewood?
So the gym roof is flat and the covered walkways. Yep.
So can you inform me the process for, I think we called it a purchasing cooperative. When we go through a purchasing cooperative, do we still have to, go out for a quote for minimum 3 companies, or we don't have to do that with a purchasing.
Correct, the purchasing cooperative takes the place of that, you can still go out and do it, but, the vendor that we use, they actually go out and solicit the quotes for us, and then they provide us with the best number to move
Okay.
forward with, and so that's what was done in this case. This one is, Tremco is the vendor that we used, but we're going through KCDA, so the PO gets made out to them, and then, they pass it along to Tremco, who comes and performs the work.
So forgive me if this was part of your presentation, when are they planning to start and when are they planning to finish?
This work will be completed before the start of school.
I guess my question was in alignment with the purchasing co-op, and I feel like maybe you might have said this before in another meeting. So are we paying members of that, or do we just get access to it?
We'll share. We are paying members, non-paying members. I'm looking back at the purchasing person back there. So we're members of it, but it does not cost us to do it. I believe they get paid through their vendors, is that correct? So the vendors, pay them so much to be a part of the King County Directors Association.
And I'm curious if if that's national like pricing, or is that just like a regional co-op?
This is regional for KCDA, it's statewide.
Okay,
Any other questions?
that's my question. I was just curious, about the pricing on it, and if it was national or local, I'm sure it's still the best pricing, but, those co-ops are good opportunities because they do all the process to keep you in compliance with OPM, so.
All right, no more discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Up next, I think this is the composite roof for Pinewood.
Yes, it is. So, as stated, there's two different types of roofs. The flat roof is on the gym and breezeway. The comp roof is on the rest of the buildings with the slope roofs on them. And this also includes, gutter replacement as well. For those that work at Pinewood, the gutters are less than desirable. She's not looking at me. They leak like sieve, and so we'll be replacing gutters in this process too. So this is a little bit different. It's still a purchasing cooperative. It's a national purchasing cooperative, Omnia. And they, use, with this one, instead of making it out to Omnia, you make it out to the vendor directly that you're working with. So these will be made out to, Chinook Roofing, and gutters, and then they'll come in and perform this work. This is also using the Distress Schools Grant, and the total comp roof, before tax is $571,263.36. So I'm recommending that you approve requisition number 297259 to Chinook Roofing in the amount of $571,263.36 plus tax.
Have a motion?
I move to approve requisition order number 00029759 to Chinook Roofing in the amount of $571,263.36 before tax.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
9/11.
Oh, did I transpose my numbers?
So I know Pinewood had some roof repair in fairly recent years. I mean, probably 10, but, this is gonna be all new.
Correct, and the only roof I'm aware of that's been been replaced there is the covered area on the front when, on 51st.
Okay.
But that was because we cut part of the roof off when they added the road there and added that bus lane there. So there had to be modifications made there. Other than that, the rest of the roof has been patched but not replaced.
Right, so will they be taking it off?
Yeah, this will be a tear off and a replacement of all the comp roof.
And this price includes the gutters.
Includes the gutters, demolition, everything, yep.
Is there a reason why we went with two separate purchasing, what are they called, what do you call them?
Purchasing cooperatives?
For two roofs?
So it's the same one, but it's a better price on the comp roof to go through this Omnia, which is a national contract, than it is on the flat roof, which KCDA is the better alternative, cheaper alternative. So both of them are through Tremco. Tremco's kind of the parent company of Omnia, and then they have their subs, like I said, that they use, in this case, Chinook Roofing and Gutters, to perform this work. So we're still using the same kind of general contractor.
Right.
But the subs are different based on that.
Yeah, I think I was more curious about, just the confusion of having two separate contractors performing, roughly the same work, but, if they're the same contractors, then that makes sense.
Yeah, it'll go through the same parent, we'll have the same project management watching it and inspecting it, things like that.
Any other questions from the board? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up for you, Greg, looks like new roof for the Early Childhood Learning Center.
Yes, last but not least, we have a new roof for Early Learning Center, also known as ECAP. This is also using the Distressed Schools Grant. The budget amount for this is $353,764.94 before tax. It's all comp roof at that campus, all single story, 412 pitch roof, pretty standard. And so tonight I'm asking that we approve requisition number 295911 to Chinook Roofing in the amount of $353,764.94. And just like with the Pinewood, this is using the Omnia contract, which is a national contract that got us the best price for this.
Is there a motion?
I move to approve requisition order number 0000295911 to Chinook Roofing in the amount of $353,764.94 before tax.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
No, I just think that we need to thank, Representative Fossey again for working hard to get this money for us.
Agreed.
What's the, what is the, reimbursement rate or timeline? Is this a pay to play, so we have to spend our own money and wait for a reimbursement from the state?
Yeah, so I was just talking with AP back here, so, worst case scenario is we pay the invoice and then we submit for reimbursement, they reimburse us usually within 48 hours. There was conversation we had earlier about once we prepare the warrant, but before we send it, we say it's gonna get paid on the 15th, OSPI will actually fund us and have that money in our account on the 15th, so that there is no 48-hour gap of funds in the account. Yeah, so, we're still working on which of those options is working best for OSPI right now, because we've heard both things from them. But worst case scenario, it's 48 hours out of pocket, and then we'll be reimbursed.
Any other questions from the board? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, next up, number 2, resolution number 2024-11, interfund loan from the Capital Projects Fund to General Fund. It is being presented by Dr. Courtney Hill, Executive Director of Equity and Family Engagement, as well as Susan Halliday from Accounting.
Okay, it was working. We think it's a battery issue. Okay. We'll go.
All right, good evening, everybody. Dr. Courtney Hill, Executive Director of Family Engagement, joined by the amazing Susan. No, it's okay. All right, so basically, the Marysville School District will receive 6% of its apportionment funds in June, This 6% is not enough for Marysville to meet all of its obligations. The district will receive 12.5% of its apportionment in July 2024. The difference between receiving 6% and 12.5% is over $9 million. The July apportionment will allow the district to pay back this temporary interfund loan by August 1st, 2024.
Is there a motion from the board?
I move to adopt resolution number 2024-11, authorizing the superintendent or designee to execute an interfund loan by July 7th, 2024 from the capital projects fund to the general fund up to the amount of $2.5 million to meet the cash flow needs of the Marysville School District. The loan value shall bear interest at a rate of 5.430488% per annum and shall be repaid, including interest, on or before August 1st, 2024.
I'll second.
All right, motion and a second, any discussion from the board?
Better be some discussion.
What's the, so we know what the interest rate's gonna be, and we know that we're gonna pay it back in August, so do we know what the interest amount is that we're gonna pay on this?
I have that. Oops. I have it on a different sheet of paper.
I floated it out there for you.
So at 5.430488% for 34 days, the interest would be $12,677.44. If we can pay it back before then, of course, the interest would be less.
And that interest, it gets paid to ourselves, right? We're borrowing money from ourselves, so it gets paid.
General
back
fund would
to
be
our-
paying the interest back to capital projects correctly. Correct.
I know that the 6% apportionment, and then the very next month it being 12.5%. I know is that pretty typical during summer months for schools to get that low of an apportionment amount?
So I have the amounts here in front of me, cause I thought it might come up in the conversation. For the month of July, we get 12.5% of our state apportionment, and August is 10%. So essentially, the state has built in that we will get an amount of property taxes, and then we'll coast through, and then they hope that we'll be fine, in July we'll get more money. This also coincides with the state's budget, because for them, July is a new year. So they have more money in July to potentially give us, so it makes sense to them. We had problems last year with June, and we knew going into this, if we were gonna have cash flow problems, it would be in June because of the smaller dollar amount coming in.
Why wasn't this talked about before? Right.
Any other questions?
Where's the
from the board?
conversation?
I have a couple, so, I was just gonna, in preparing for this meeting, I was looking at our April financials, just to kind of look at some of our projections, and was reminded about that potential June pitfall, so to speak. And then looking at, I think there was like a 4-year projection that had the last 4 years of just a graph on it, and it always shows kind of this dip in June where it seems to be problematic. And then kind of reviewing our plan that we submitted to OSBI to make sure we're being consistent there. And I understand that you've had a conversation with TJ Kelly and have let him know what we're doing, and he's fully informed, so we won't be surprising people that are, that don't need to be surprised.
Correct.
Yes, we've had conversations with the ESD as well as OSBI. They know all the details.
And the intent is it'll be paid back within the 30 days.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just a short term, just long enough to get that July apportionment coming in.
The amount of $2,500,000, is that what we need, to pay? Or is that over the amount of what we need to pay for the next month?
So by borrowing $2.5 million, I'm able to meet a couple shortfalls. We're able to pay payroll to our employees, that isn't an issue. We have to pay the Department of Retirement every month, at the beginning of the month, for the previous payroll cycle. So payroll pay is about 13.8 million a month. Of that, about 1.8 goes to the Department of Retirement, and normally it comes out the beginning of the next month. Right now, I'm short from that. I need about $819,000 to complete that payment. And then I need 1.3 million for accounts payable for the end of this month. I also need a little bit of money for accounts payable for mid-July, because I won't have the apportionment until the end of July. This way we can pay all of our creditors, all of our vendors, all of our employees get paid, nobody is short with the loan.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just would like to hear more about what our state partners said, like a little bit more explanation on, if this affects our plan, and just a little more explanation than just we talked to them.
In my conversations with OSPI, they were very matter of fact. We explained what was happening. They said, okay, it doesn't change the bottom line, doesn't change your plan, you're gonna pay it back in a month. They were very, almost like this is something that they've seen before.
Of course, that's always the answer.
And they told me to please make a note of it for next year, to make sure this doesn't happen again next year, or to try to avoid it if possible for next year.
Yeah, I think that's good, because as already have been mentioned, that June, typically our apportionment is about half of what July is, and what is May's apportionment typically?
So May's apportionment is 5%.
Okay, so we have a couple months where we're getting a significantly low apportionment.
Again, they're looking at the idea that we collect a lot of money in April with property taxes, and that hopefully that lasts us through until the July bump again.
Any other questions from the board? Alright, all those in favor? Alright, motion passes. Thank you very much, Susan.
I didn't say, I have another question, that's what your face looked like.
Alright, we're gonna get into overview of the application process for the open board seat, presented by myself. So as, I'm sure the community is aware, the district, put some information out there as far as the application process for filling the vacant board seat in, District 4. There's a 90-day timeline, right? We have to fill the seat within 90 days from when we first identify a vacant seat, which was the previous board meeting held on the 17th, I believe, of this month. And so that started the 90-day timeline. We have opened up the application pool until the 12th of July. So that's about 3 Fridays from today. So about a little over 2 weeks in order to get your applications in. I believe, and Jody, you can correct me if I'm wrong, what are all the avenues that the community has to be able to see this opportunity for application?
Sure, so, folks can apply online on the website. There's a direct link in an online application. There's also a link to a PDF form that can be downloaded and filled in by hand, and then either scanned and emailed back in. There's an email address on there, or they can fill it out and bring it to the service center during business hours from 8 to 4:30.
And this announcement was put out on social media. Was it given to any of our local news outlets, or?
So, it was sent out through a media release, so all of our local media received it. And then it was also directly emailed to all of our families, in case they might know someone who lives in Director Area 4, and posted on the website, and a dedicated web page was built for it as well.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, until July 12th, you have an opportunity to apply. After July 12th, the first kind of filtration of the applicants will be just filtering out applicants who may not even legally be qualified. So that would be they wouldn't be residing within District 4, or they don't have an active voter registration for this area. And then obviously they have to be 18 years or older. And I believe that the last stipulation is, if they are an applicant who is a current staff member of the school, and by the time they're appointed, they would have had to either resigned or not be a staff member anymore for the school district. I know that I say that because that was a question that I got earlier today. After that process, whoever is left out of that pool will be eligible for interview, and then that interview will be made public. And I'm thinking that we do that in person. I know we've done it via Zoom, but I think that was during COVID, the last time we did that. So the interview process will be done in person. I don't know if we have a set date for that yet. I think it is gonna depend on how many applicants we have. So there's more to come on what that looks like. But are there any questions from the board as far as the process?
The 90 days, we have to seat that person within 90 days?
Correct.
So that has to be done.
Yeah, I believe they have to swear in before the 90 days.
I guess my only comment is I've got a couple. One, it's a great time for folks who are invested in our schools to come and participate. And then two, just in terms of process here, that we work as expeditiously as we can to see a new board member. Which means, I know generally our July meeting schedule is relatively light, but given the board vacancy and a couple of other things, we might be scheduling a few more meetings where normally we don't typically have them on the calendar, so. Folks' schedules, but it'd be great to get that filled.
Jody, I know you mentioned, sorry, I'm kind of calling on you a lot, but I know you mentioned that in the past, either during or after the interview process, the community had the ability to fill out a sort of survey or a kind of a scorecard of the interviewees. And I think you said that we would make that available, both potentially a paper copy for those who come and join us in person, as well as in like a electronic version that folks can use if they're watching via Zoom. Does that sound correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And I think as far as that kind of survey or that scale goes, I remember last time the board also had a scale system that we would rate interviewees. Will they be the same as the publics, or?
I think we need to take a look at that to see if it would exactly match. I think it makes sense to try to make some type of correlation there, so it's easy processing as you go through everything. But I think we need to take a look at that.
Yeah, I think my intention is to make this as similar to voting for an elected official as possible. Because obviously in this process, it's the board appointing the new board member. But as much as possible, if we can allow for community involvement and allow for there to be an ability for the board to receive community input, then that's preferred. So any suggestions from other board members or community members are welcome.
Well, I just wanted to say, I wanna make sure that we have a scoring rubric and, because I feel like that's how you are able to maybe select, cause appointing is kind of a big deal, so if we're like having a rubric to be able to score for answers, then I just like that idea, kind of, when I think of interview, I think of, you already have you have your set questions, I just think it's more fair that way, that's my thoughts.
Any other questions?
Agreed. I think it's important to get people involved, so if anybody in the community has ideas for us as well, let us know.
Yeah, I think we operate, the questions that we have for the interviewees, or the ones that we've used from the last time, have been questions that have been recommended. I know we have to go, but have been recommended, from WASDA, and so, but in between now and then, I would assume that we're gonna receive some, potential questions from the community, so we can all look at those as a board and see if, any of the suggested questions from WASDA need to be switched out with some other, Marysville specific questions. But we'll get to that when it comes. Any other questions as far as at least the initial process? All right, that's all I've got. We're gonna go into executive session. It is 8:02. And I'll go ahead and read this off. The Marysville School District Board of Directors will meet in executive session at 8 p.m. Following the special session meeting for 1.5 hours, ending at 9:30 p.m. to discuss the performance of a public school employee. No action will be taken during or after the executive session. All right, so once the executive session ends, I will come out here and adjourn. So if you're still in the audience, you'll see me in an hour and a half or less. So thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight, even on short notice. Really appreciate it.